Welcome to another episode of Beyond Death, a podcast that is rewriting the conversation about death, covering a range of topics in the death space and celebrating the wonderful people that work in this arena and hearing stories from those affected. We are your hosts. I am Mark, I'm a radiographer and I'm a senior lecturer in forensic radiography. And
And I'm Lindsay, and I'm a very experienced forensic radiographer. Hello, hello.
hello, hello. Delighted to be with you again, Lindsay. And who do we have with us today?
Well, we are very, very lucky to have Julie Bramble. Hello, Julie. Hi, hi.
Hello,
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, thank you for giving up your time for this podcast. I thought I'd start by just telling people a little bit about you. For everyone listening, Julie has been a previous crime scene investigator, and she's got 5 years of experience in evaluating and preserving evidence. Very interesting for us forensic people. You're skilled in using manual and electronic measuring devices, including video photography, to capture evidence. You've been involved in volume, series, and serious crime scene investigations, also major and critical incidents. You've been deployed overseas twice for mass fatality and DBI incidents, and you're currently studying an MSc to further your knowledge base. You're a very ambitious educator, eager to contribute to the academic background in university education. You have a strong drive to support student comprehension and deliver engaging lectures. You're an accomplished educator. You're versed in creating and delivering engaging curriculum and guides both online and in-class discussion with innovative instructional techniques. And you like to embody university mission and values to support student retention and school reputation. So that is a pretty neat summary of your CV. So going forward from that, in your own words, obviously, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the work that you're doing, and how did you get to the position that you're in now?
So it started when I was very young. So I was 15 and we had people come into school and we did the tick box tests about where your career should be. And mine came out as pathology, funeral director, and police work. So sort of all the same, really. I really wasn't ready for university at such a young age. So pathology and a medical career was kind of ruled out. And I didn't really want to be a police officer, which at the time for a CSI, that's what you had to do.
Hmm.
So I looked into the funeral director world and started my career as an embalmer,
Hmm.
and did that for 16 years.
Wow.
So that kind of tailored my background in the death industry, really. Um, and then moving forward, that's how I came about to be deployed to some mass fatality incidences, and kind of furthered my knowledge base and really enjoyed the archaeology and anthropology side and forensic imaging and how we identify the dead. So kind of still falling around what I call the death industry. Um, and then in 2011, I decided I wanted to go to university to further my education. And that's when I did my undergrad in forensic investigation. And I was fortunate enough to get a job as a crime scene investigator very shortly after that. And again, working jobs in archaeology and anthropology at crime scenes, again, really piqued my interest. And that's why I kind of did my master's, which I'm just finishing.
Hmm. Hard work, isn't it?
It is, yes.
But you're not qualified police person, is that right?
No, so crime scene investigators are civilian workers, so you don't need to be a police officer to be a crime scene investigator.
Well, what an interesting journey that was, all the way from 16 and embalming, and all those years of experience to get you where you are now. So thank you for that. Mark, I was going to hand over to you for the next couple of questions.
Yes,
So do
thank
you
you.
start?
Julie, you're currently teaching.
I am.
Yeah, so this is exciting. So you've got a lot of experience and you're passing that knowledge on to others, which is great. So what do you enjoy most about that, and why did you go into that?
Like you say, I really wanted to pass that knowledge on to the next generation. So all of the skill set, having been a practitioner my entire life, I never thought I would go into education, funnily enough. Um, and the job role came up, and I kind of thought we need to pass that knowledge on. We need to pass that experience on for the next generation to learn and start kind of where I did. And I truly believe that in education, practical practitioners and learning is something that the students really do learn well from.
And so, I mean, obviously, you bring a lot of experience from the various roles that you've had. Um, and you say that the students relate, and I entirely agree. And I think having that experience is really great, and it enables you to put things into context when you're speaking to students, which is brilliant. What do you think the challenges are with something like, say, crime scene investigation, in trying to sort of make it realistic for students?
I like to relate it to cases that I've worked on. So we obviously teach the theory, which underpins the practice. So you do need the theory alongside that practice. But the students always say to me that when I talk about cases that I've worked on, it's easier for them to relate to that. So
Mm.
because I've been there and I've done that, and sometimes they're problematic cases and problems have arisen, we can discuss like the problem solving of that case together and what they think they would have done and what I did in that instance.
Excellent. Oh, that's interesting. And what do you enjoy most about that interaction then with students?
I guess I still kind of get the practical experience because having been a practitioner, I kind of thought I might have missed that in education.
Hmm.
But organising those practicals and writing those scenarios and getting the students to do those. So, like the digital photography, bringing that in, that's a really important skill set that they need, and getting them to understand about an integrity and continuity of evidence that they're collecting and the context of that. Um,
Mhm.
so that I kind of really enjoy, yeah, the practical element, and then, like I say, I get the luxury of giving them the theory, delivering that theory, and going, this is why the theory is so important to the practice.
Yeah, you mentioned something a couple of moments ago. I've just sort of been pondering on it as well. And you said do you share some of the cases that you were involved with, and you go through like some of the decisions and things that you made, and then you sort of discuss that with the students, and I suppose in a way you get a chance to revisit those decisions because you make them in the heat of the moment, don't you? You're there, you have to do it. Um, do you ever reach a scenario where you think, and with discussion with the students, you think, well, actually, I might have done something different here?
Oh, definitely, all the time. So, and we talk about that. So, like you say, like decision making is very dynamic sometimes at those crime scenes. So you are going to make
Mhm.
decisions with the information that you're given at the time. And then, so we explain to them that sometimes extra information comes in that may change your decision making at the time, and that's fine. So we talk about the rationale behind your decision making and how you executed your decision. But if you were given different information, would that have changed the decision you made at the time? And sometimes it
Mm.
does, and sometimes it doesn't. And neither is right or wrong.
Yeah. As a crime scene investigator, did you ever get to go to court?
I did, and I didn't enjoy it.
And what did you learn from that you pass on to your students to have interest?
Mainly that know your statement very well. So understand what is in your statement. You should have some preparation beforehand from some input about how to give evidence in court. But just
Mm.
understand that although the defence might try and badger you, it's not personal. They are obviously just doing their job. And ultimately, sometimes they may be there to try and trip you up. But if you know your statement well enough, you should be able to answer those questions
Mm.
from the defence.
Yeah, it's a really interesting process. I mean, just as a aside, I had the opportunity fairly recently to be on a jury, and it was very interesting. There was quite a lot of forensic evidence of various types presented, and it was really interesting to see it from the other side. And as a juror, sort of looking at it, thinking, well, how much weight can I place on this? How reliable is it? So certainly when I'm speaking to the students now, I've got another perspective, which is interesting to sort of pass back, I think. Um, there must be things that you don't like about your current job, or indeed some of the jobs that you've done in the past. What do you like least?
Marking, can I say marking?
You can say that, and yes, I'd share that.
I've got three modules and they're all very practical. And that's the bit that I love the most is those practical elements. And we do a lot of multidisciplinary events. So we have a lot of combined programs. So we've got some policing students, we've got some counter-terrorist students, and then obviously we've got criminal investigation students and applied criminology. So understanding that what everybody's role is within that investigation and how important each other's roles are for the whole investigation.
Yeah, that's sometimes difficult, isn't it? Getting the balance right and understanding other people's perspectives. Uh, good. I'd like to pass you back to Lindsay now, who I think she may have a few more questions for you.
Yes. First of all, I must say how interesting it is to hear this different perspective. Radiographers are always, everyone is terrified of going to a coroner's court or to a court. So to hear someone's actual experiences is hugely useful for our teams to listen to. So thank you for that insight, Julie. What I'd like you to describe, and I'm sure you've seen so many scenarios from when you were embalming and in your mortuary work to the CSI work you've done. Could you describe a situation that stayed with you and why it stayed with you? Why did it move you? Why did it stay with you? Why does it stay with you now? I think we all have examples of things that we never ever forget. So could you tell us about a scenario that sits very close to your heart?
Like you say, there's always one that you will always remember because we're human. So we aren't robots and we're naturally some things are going to affect us. And I had a particular case where there was four teenagers that had been involved in a car crash, quite a bad car crash. Um, and their injuries were quite substantial. And obviously all the family members wanted their loved ones at home. They wanted to be able to come and view them and have them at home for people to come and see them. And I was able to give them that opportunity, as horrific as it was. But yeah, I provided that opportunity and that will always stick with me, I think. I think when you are slightly younger in a job role, you compare people around your own age about the life experiences that you've had and are still yet to come, but they're never going to get them.
And how stressful those situations are and the pressure to get things right because you often don't get a second chance in those situations to get things right. And I'm sure the family were hugely appreciative of that because that disconnection, they spend years trying to get over the kind of hurt and pain and shock and horror. But it sounds like you did a wonderful job there. So of course these scenarios are extremely emotional. And I just wondered, because I have a special interest in the emotional side of post-mortem work and forensic work, how do you cope with the emotional side of the work you do?
The one thing that I always remember my tutor telling me, and I pass on to my students when they also ask, is that um, it's not your grief to take away from the family. So although you have a job to do, and sometimes it is very tragic, you don't need to grieve. You need to be able to do your job to the best of your ability, and it's the family's job. That's their grief. So kind of don't take it away from them.
And do you have any tips for professionals in this field about how to switch off if they feel affected? Do you signpost people? Do you do debriefing? Can you give us any insight into methods you may have used or used with your students or colleagues?
We do. We always have a debrief, and I think, and that's generally around over coffee, um, and just talk about the experiences that how we felt and how it made us feel. So the one thing is to not discuss that and to shut down, and lots of people do that and think that they have to cope on their own when actually they don't. So we were very lucky. There was a trim counselling process for us. If in the police service, if we'd been to an incident and it was deemed that we may need to speak to somebody, generally as a rule, it's usually within sort of within your colleagues within the office, because they kind of understand you, so they understand what you've been through and what you've experienced. But it is about communication. Communication is key, and being honest with yourself that actually, if you are struggling, you do need to speak up. And I think the saying goes within the police that if it's still troubling you 3 days down the line, you've not processed it, and you need to go and speak to somebody to deal with that.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's about, the key thing is the communication, to make sure the communication lines are always kept open. Some people cope admirably well, other people will hide it, as you say, but we can keep an eye out for our colleagues always. And certainly in our training programs that Mark and I are involved with, we have a separate section about welfare, and to try and understand why we're drawn to certain professions, why do we do the jobs we do, and to beware the pitfalls, but also the benefits, the hidden benefits of being able to provide a family with an answer, or a coroner with the cause of death, and therefore justice will be seen to be done. But it's a heavy weight to bear. But with lots of experience, we can pass that experience around. So that was really useful and affirming about, I think, what we feel about the emotional side. So thank you for that, Julie. I'm going to hand you back to Mark now.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Julie. Yeah, I was just wondering, Julie, and this must be a question that you get asked a lot by students, but obviously you're now passing on all of your experience and your skills to others. What sort of tips would you give to people who are interested into getting into this line of work, involving, crime scene and dealing with the dead and those sort of issues?
That's a really tough one, I think, a really tough question. Um, I'm not really sure. I try my hardest to be as open and honest, and particularly as being a CSI, it can be very lonely. So if you aren't keen on being a lone worker, and I did have one student come up to me and say to me, "You really put me off being a CSI." And I was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And she said, "No, it's a good thing, because I know I can't work on my own, and I know I'm not very good at lone working." So she was like, "For me, it's perfect, because if I'd have gone into the job and then realised afterwards, I'd have been really upset." So I think it's about being honest about, although I'm biased and I always say it's the best job in the world, being a crime scene investigator, what you have to understand is that it can be quite lonely. And if that's not for you, then being realistic and saying, yes, actually, that isn't going to work for me. It's about understanding the future of forensics, so what's coming in the future. And I do encourage my students to watch some good CSI programs, not the bad ones that are out there, that discuss forensic strategies and understanding the linking, so linking of crime scenes together.
Excellent. I think that was really, really good and quite interesting for us to think about. And I've not really thought about the sort of lone working element of the crime scene investigator. But yeah, you must be there processing a scene on your own for quite some time, actually going through everything methodically. And it does take a certain type of person, I guess, to do that. Interesting. Um, Julie, what was your proudest moment in your career?
Probably one of my last jobs, which was a double murder. I'd been seconded to this particular case, um, and had involvement, and we had one bodiless and one with a body. And when the conviction came through for the double murder conviction, was probably one of my proudest moments, knowing that I'd been involved in that investigation.
Mm, brilliant. Yeah, and you can say, think, well, I did my job, and that's resulted in that. That's brilliant. Um, okay. tell us something unusual about you, Julie.
Now, I asked my colleagues to help me. I asked my colleagues to help me with this. And it was difficult because just generally I'm very unusual with my career path and everything that I've done. But the one thing is I have a disarticulated skeleton under my bed. Plastic,
Ah,
hasten to add. But I
excellent,
do.
excellent, excellent. I hesitate to say this, but I don't think that's that unusual. But I think we should perhaps not dwell on that. Uh, but yes, it is interesting what us forensics types get up to and what sort of things we have in our lofts. But yeah, maybe maybe we need to think about how to deal with those as we we don't want to sort of leave those to anyone, do we? Brilliant. Well, it's been really interesting to talk with you, Julie. I'm going to hand you back to Lindsay now.
Yeah, I've got to. I love that skeleton under the bed. It's not in the cupboard, you see. It could have had its own cupboard. I've got a collection of skulls and anything bony, and I've got old hospital equipment. How sad is that? Come on, Mark. What have you got hidden under your bed?
Well, I've got a storage unit. We used to have half a skeleton in it, but I did finally take that into the university because I thought, this was just if the police break in here, what are they going to
I
think?
know, I
So I
know.
thought, no, that's got to go. But I am sitting in an office that has at least two skulls in it.
Hmm.
So probably best not to think about it really.
Yeah, and
But
I've got a
uh,
bleached sheep skull on my mantelpiece that I bleached myself after doing the bombings and finding out the best washing powder to use, and it's beautifully
yeah.
white. But yes, so we are a bit
It
nerdy,
is a
and
bit macabre. It is a bit macabre. I do have. I also teach dental students, and I do have an interesting conversation with them because we're looking at an X-ray, and they're saying, "Well, what is this? What's this structure I'm looking at?" And so we get out the skeleton, and as people have done for 100 years or so, and say, "Well, this is the part you're looking at," and they're, "Oh, is that real?" And so, well, yes, it is, and they're all very sort of anxious about touching it. Okay, well, yeah, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but before you came to this session, you just had your finger in somebody's mouth for 3 hours. I don't. It's about getting over those things, isn't it? But yes.
it
Anyway,
is.
sorry,
It's really
sorry, I
interesting.
digress. Okay.
No, but that's so good. So Julie, I just want to get Mark to recap, but just firstly to say thank you so much for giving us your time this afternoon. I think we've cantered through some really interesting topics, unusual for radiographers to hear from, but also the wider teams. So Mark, could you just recap the interesting points that Julie has brought to us
Yeah,
today?
so one of the things we normally do at the end of these sort of sessions is to say, well, what have we learnt today? And I think it's been really, really interesting talking to you, Julie, and particularly about the benefits of bringing experience into the classroom and being able to talk through real situations that you, as a lecturer, have dealt with, and perhaps re-examining those, like we were talking about, and so think, well, would I have done something differently? Because I think that really makes it really alive to students, and they begin to understand how they might process something like that in the future, and that's something that they're going to remember. So I thought that was really useful. And the other sort of takeaway which I really liked was that piece of advice. It's not your grief to take away from the family. That's not your job. It's their job to grieve. Your job is to do the best possible job that you can, to investigate or to assist in whatever way you're doing. So I thought that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So just to wrap up, so the podcasts, we hope that you've enjoyed this and our future podcasts and the ones that we've already put up on the site. And we'd like you to rate our channel, as we're always keen to hear any feedback from our listeners. And this may be the end of the discussion today, but not the end of the conversation. There's always more beyond death, so stay tuned.